What's going on, everyone? It's Token back with a brand new video for you all. Today I have something that I was very eager to eventually bring to the channel, and I'm thankful enough to have brought it to the channel now sooner rather than later, as this is just something that I'm so fond of and really wanted to bring to the channel, and that is the fact that we are joining our first league on YouTube, and it is going to be the NPL Division 2. They were on Twitter looking for coaches for their Division 2. I wasn't able to prioritize applying to leagues and looking for leagues and supporting leagues early in my YouTube endeavors, as I'm still very early in my YouTube career, but very early on when I first was getting started and making videos that actually had capture card quality. I wasn't able to prioritize getting into a league due to the fact that I was focusing so heavy on VGC content. Now though, we're solid on our VGC content, and now I think it was the perfect timing to pursue some different forms of competitive battling, and league format popped right up, and I was eager to give that a try. I will try my best to eventually get into more singles and OU and start to do more viewer battles and stuff like that, but I really hate not being up to my own standard in a competitive format. I really don't feel like I'm up to my own standard in OU at this point, considering I really haven't played much of any of it, and I really don't like playing the guessing game with guessing if I'm making the right play or not. I like to know, or at least feel like I know that I'm making the most optimal play in most situations, and I'm just not there right now with OU. So I will definitely eventually get there, but as of right now, we are putting that to the back seat for right now. So I am extremely excited to bring League format to the channel, considering it is my second favorite format to battle in right after VGC. And if we're talking about VGC 16, that's definitely my favorite format to battle in, considering how worse that format was than the norm in VGC. But moving right along though, yes, I'm very grateful to have been one of the coaches accepted to the NPL Division 2, and whoever did select coaches, if it was Eric or whoever that runs that's partaking in the NPL Division 1, thank you very much for selecting me. I definitely plan on putting my best foot forward. I'm definitely going for that NPL Division 2 championship, so that maybe we can get into the NPL Division 1 for next season and even branch out to more leagues from here and try to make ourselves a little bit of a name in this competitive league format community. Moving right along though, I think we can, oh yes, our name for this season is going to be the Salazzin Salazzles, which is a name that my friend AQ came up with, so shout outs to her coming up with that really awesome name. And yes, I love the way the logo came out. Shout outs to Alcoholic Gamer for the logo. Definitely go check him out. I'll leave a link in the description to Alcoholic Gamer. He definitely deserves a little bit more support, considering that he did a fantastic job with that logo, and it was very reasonably priced in my opinion too. I'm not huge on paying a bunch of money for a logo, considering how well that one looks in my opinion, and I didn't have to go overboard with paying for it, considering I am a broke college kid. But moving right along, when the draft started, it kind of snuck up on me. I've just been dealing with so much since 2017 started. It just hasn't been the best start to the year for me, other than the fact that our YouTube channel has been doing better than I would have expected. So other than that, everything else hasn't been going the absolute best for me, which is a little unfortunate, but that is life. You bounce back, you deal with adversity, and you move on. Due to that though, I wasn't as focused as I would have been on when the draft would have started for the NPL Division 2, so it kind of snuck up on me and I didn't really have a plan, so I had to start to toss a few ideas with some friends, and they eventually helped me get right to the idea that drafting a Tapu, if it fell to me, as I was the second to last pick, and that I wasn't sure that a Tapu would fall to me at all. Thankfully enough, one did fall to me, as there is spoilers on the screen, but I'm very grateful that one fell to me, thankfully, because there was some pretty questionable picks in that first round, such as Manor Warbane drafted the second pick overall, but I'm perfectly fine with it. As long as I got a Tapu, I am excited. We did allow Pheromones in this league, so the first overall pick was Pheromones, so which makes a lot of sense. Pheromones is absolutely a monster. It's so strong. It's extremely frail, which makes sense. Needed something to debuff it a little bit, as it's just so threatening offensively. But I was perfectly fine with taking Tapu Fini later in the rounds, and I'm just so excited to start to use it. So that is going to be our first pick. It will be Tapu Fini, and Tapu Fini is not only going to provide us with a very strong typing in that Water Fairy, and obviously also Misty Terrain, but just look at its bulk, that 115 defense stat and that 130 special defense stat with an 85 speed and a 95 special attack stat. Neither of those are overwhelming, but they're still solid, but that bulk is just so nice, and I love bulky offensive Pokemon that are able to not only withstand a few hits, but also dish out very strong hits. And Tapu Fini also gets Calm Mind, which allows it to become even more bulky on its special defense end, but then also become a little bit more of an offensive threat, which I really like. That's when Tapu Fini becomes really threatening. It gets lots of interesting moves such as Grass Knot, it gets Shadow Ball, it gets both of the screens, so we can definitely run a light screen set, which I think would be really nice for our team. I mean, we could run a double screen set with light clay. I think would be really nice. We can also run. It gets taunt. It gets a lot of interesting options that we can use. It also gets defog. So now I already have a hazard removal right off the back. That's also an extremely strong typing. That's going to benefit our team with its terrain and also counter others' terrains. It's going to be bulky but also offensive, and it has a decent speed stat. Nothing overwhelming, but definitely a decent speed stat. So Tapu Fini provided us with so many just checks that I could have wanted in a first pick. Provided us with just so many of those right off the bat. So I was extremely excited to get this Pokemon, and I just immediately started to think of what Pokemon could benefit from Misty Terrain extremely well. And I do think I did a really good job with my first 5 picks and getting Pokemon that all just benefit from Misty Terrain and that all are going to synergize extremely well with Tapu Fini. And what else Tapu Fini is going to... Unfortunately, Tapu Fini doesn't get any reliable recovery, so we will definitely run leftovers in some of our games. And it also doesn't... the only form of recovery that it gets is ICMZ Haze. Unfortunately, though, we had to declare our Z Pokemon right after the draft. Tapu Fini is not going to be our Z Pokemon. It will be our next Pokemon. But I'm not huge on Z Crystals in general, so I'm not sure how much I'll use them at all, if ever. So we'll see about that. But, yeah, we won't have reliable recovery, which does suck, and it also doesn't get Wish, even though it is a fairy type, and a lot of fairy types do get Wish, but unfortunately it doesn't get Wish either, so we will have to work around not letting it get too damaged since it can't recover its own health. But we did end up snagging a Wish Passer eventually though, so maybe we can Wish Pass into Fini and get its health back up. But other than that, I didn't see many weaknesses in Fini, and I just thought that there were so many other items that I might want to use on Fini, such as leftovers, such as light clay, like I said, with double screens, such as maybe a AV, and definitely maybe even specs. So just a lot of different items, and Scarf maybe. So a lot of items that I definitely wanted to maybe try out on Fini that I thought just the Z Crystal didn't work well on it. So we won't have that option of 100% recovery move in ICMZ Haze. But I don't think that's the best overall either way though. If we want to hit Fini's health back up, we're going to have to rely on either just leftovers getting us back up or just Wish Passing into it, which I think is much better than running a Z Crystal just for that exact reason of just having a 100% recovery just for one turn. Doesn't work for multiple turns, just one turn. So it's definitely not the best in general overall. But yeah, Fini just knocked off so many checks on my team. I wanted to get a Fairy early as fairies start to get bad really quickly. So I also got a Fairy really quickly. And yeah, just really getting a terrain to counter other terrains and to benefit my team is just going to be so nice. Obviously, it does weaken Dragon type moves, which is a little disappointing because of the fact that we had to snag a Dragon. Dragons are extremely strong in this format. But I do think we can play around not having a Dragon and obviously having a Dragon, but not having our Dragon at full force when Misty Terrain is up. Moving right along though, we fall right into Landorus Therian. And Landorus Therian is a Pokemon that I just I saw the opportunity to how it synergized. Obviously, like I said, I did get a little help from friends with these with the first 3 picks and then the 5th pick, but I easily saw how much Landorus Therian synergized well with Tapu Fini, considering that Landorus has a typing that goes extremely well with Fairy Water. Landorus being weak to Ice, Landorus being weak to Water, both resisted by Fini. Fini being weak to Poison, Fini being weak to Electric, Fini being weak to it's weak to Grass, which Landorus doesn't resist, unfortunately, because it is a ground type. But we did snag a 3rd Pokemon that does resist Grass, so that's solid. So I think these first 3 just synergize overwhelmingly well, but Landorus does resist a few of its things that Fini is weak to, and Landorus is going to be extremely nice when making our bulky Pokemon even more bulky with Intimidate. It's just such a nice ability that I'm very excited to have one of the best, if not the best, Intimidate Pokemon in the game on my team. And then I wanted a Pokemon that was a little bit more offensive than Finny right off the bat before having a setup, and Landorus provides that with a 145 attack stat, which is overwhelmingly good. There was a lot of different options I could have went with here, but the synergy just between these two, I couldn't pass up on it. 145 attack stat is just going to threaten so many Pokemon, and at the same time we can U-turn off of threats a decent amount and just stay in a solid position and keep the momentum in our favor. So having switch initiative on Landorus was another thing I really liked. Definitely getting a stealth rocker early on was something I was excited about too, considering that I didn't want to get a low tier stealth rocker because I think a low tier stealth rocker is really bad. If you're going to get a low tier Pokemon, I think it should just be a typing you don't have, something that just synergizes well with your team, but not just getting a Pokemon solely just because you don't have hazards, because a lot of those Pokemon they don't do that job that well in my opinion. They kind of struggle to set up hazards, especially multiple times in one game. So then the hazards your opponent can take out the Pokemon and set up the hazards, and then they can spin them off, and then you don't have that Pokemon anymore because it's not the best Pokemon at setting up hazards, but then also staying alive turns after that to be able to set it up again. But I don't think Landorus Therian has that issue. I think we'll be able to set up Stealth Rocks with them multiple times in a game as long as we can avoid those times for Ice type moves or HP Ices coming off a random Pokemon. As long as we can avoid that, I think Landorus Therian will be solid. Landorus has a decent speed stat at 91, so it's a little bit better than Finny, but still not the best. So I do think Finny and Landorus are both kind of in that same area of not the best speed stat, but definitely not the worst. Landorus definitely a decent amount better than Finny though, as the 80s is a decent amount worse because of how many Pokemon are around that 80. High 80, mid 80 speed tier compared to the ones that are in the low 90 speed tier. So Landorus definitely has a decently better speed stat, but still nothing overwhelming. Landorus also has a decent special attack stat that don't go too crazy or think it's too out of the norm if I do run some special attacks on my Landorus Therian, because I do think it has enough special attack, base special attack stat to be able to run some special attacks. So definitely don't rule that out as something that I might do during this season. And then yes, just the synergy that these two just have together. I was able to get a Stealth Rocker here. I was able to get a Ground Immunity here, which I think is very valuable. I was able to get Pokemon that easily one of the best intimidators in the game or in the draft league format. I was able to get a Pokemon that has extremely solid offensive pressure, and I was just able to knock off so many things that I wanted to get in my second pick. I was able to get a lot of those things done there, so I was very excited about Landorus Therian. Moving right along though, we get into our mega pick and our third pick overall, and this is when I really got excited about the synergy that our team had at this point, and that's because we were able to snag Mega Scissor. And Mega Scissor's a Pokemon that I definitely wanted to try out, as none of these three Pokemon, obviously Finny being a brand new Pokemon, so obviously haven't been able to try that out, but I haven't been able to try out Landorus or Mega Scissor yet in the draft league format, so I was extremely excited to be able to try out both of these two Pokemon. Landorus also gets knockoff, and so does Scissor, so now I have two Pokemon that can knock off items, which is really nice, as I think knockoff is still extremely good, and at the same time it can give me an easier way of identifying which Pokemon has the Z Crystal, so I can play around that a little bit better, as just one Pokemon getting nuked that you really needed a matchup by a Z Crystal can really change the tide of a game right off the bat. So I like the fact that I will have decent knockoff to my disposal, so I'm able to identify which Pokemon is holding that Z Crystal, or at least think that I know, as its item won't get knocked off, which will kind of give away that it might be the Z Crystal Pokemon, unless it's Mega, obviously, as the Megas will have the Mega Stones, and those also can be knocked off. But overall, I love knockoff. Mega Scissor's typing is what really sold me on it, as it's only weak to those fire type attacks, and we have two switch-ins to that in Landorus and Finny, more so Finny if it's a very powerful fire type attack, like what's his name's fire type attack, Mega Charizard's Wise, Fire Blast and Sun. If it's something that powerful, obviously Finny would be a better switch into that, but I do think we have decent options to our disposal into covering fire type, covering Mega Scissor's very vulnerability to fighting type moves, and then on top of that, it resists ice type moves that Landorus is weak to, the water type moves that Landorus is weak to, and that Mega Scissor really doesn't like taking, both resisted by Tapu Fini. What else do we have? Oh, Finny's weak to poison. Mega Scissors immune to poison. And Mega Scissor really doesn't like taking a lot of fighting type moves. Landorus resists fighting, so does Tapu Fini. So I do think that these three just synergize so well, and it's going to be extremely nice. But then Mega Scissor also has that 150 attack stat and a 140 defense stat, which is going to give it such solid bulk, especially combined with Landorus Tharion's Intimidate. That's going to boost its defense stat to an overwhelming spot if I'm in on a Pokemon that had already been intimidated by Landorus. So that's also really nice. And 100 special defense isn't something to laugh at, but we do have a 70 HP stat, which kind of hurts the bulkiness of both. But when you're 140 in defense, you're going to be solid in defense either way, no matter how low that HP stat is. Mega Scissor also provides us with a slow U-turn, which I also really like. I wanted slow and fast switch initiative, which we will kind of have with Landorus Tharion. Kind of needs to be scarfed to have really fast switch initiative, which is a set that I definitely think I'll end up bringing sometime throughout this league. But we do have a much slower switch initiative with Mega Scissor, which is really nice because that allows us to get into our opponents to switch into a threat on Mega Scissor that takes it on better, and then we slowly U-turn out of there and get into the threat that we want out. So that's also a really nice option to have to our disposal. And obviously Technician is going to make those priority bullet punches really nice. So I wanted a powerful priority move, and we get that in Mega Scissors bullet punch. The last league I was in, I had no priority, and I definitely felt sometimes I was just in such bad situations where if I had priority, I could have won games, but I just didn't have it. So I like the fact that we got priority early on. We got a Pokemon that synergizes with our last two picks extremely well. We got a very powerful, bulky, but offensive Pokemon, and we knocked out a Steel type very early on, which is a type that I've had great success with taking early on. Same with Ground. And same with Fairy. I've had lots of success taking ground types, fairy types, and steel types early on. Those Pokemon usually do extremely well for me. Moving right along though, we get into our fourth pick, which is going to be Reuniclus. And Reuniclus was a Pokemon that I definitely wanted to have on my draft, as there's just so many very scary fighting types in the draft league format. Most notably Mega Lopunny. It kind of runs through a lot of teams where it just revenge kills teams until they're out of Pokemon. And I really dislike having to face Mega Lopunny when I don't have a Reuniclus on my team. But on top of that, this league decided to allow Pheromosa, which just gave me more reason as to why I wanted to prioritize getting a Pokemon like Reuniclus on our team, as bulky psychic types are extremely solid. Bulky psychic types are there's not many of them. Like Reuniclus is easily the best bulky psychic type, so I definitely wanted to get it onto my team, and I was able to do that. I kind of wanted to wait till the 5th round to snag Reuniclus. I thought there was a chance it might have not been taken, but I didn't want to take that chance. Even though I did want to snag a dragon here, I just said it's best I get this now, as I know this is a Pokemon that I definitely want. I'm going to be devastated if it gets sniped from me. I was able to do that, and I was fine with doing that now. Reuniclus has a 110 HP stat with a 125 special attack stat, and that 110 HP stat just allows it to be so bulky, takes so many hits, especially with reliable recovery on top of Regenerator. It just allows Reuniclus to stay around for so long, and considering we do have Misty Terrain, that just allows Reuniclus to be toxic, and we also have a lot of Pokemon that can switch in on attacks going towards Reuniclus, such as it's weak to Dark. We can switch into Tapu Fini, and those Shadow Balls, that will obviously be an issue. But not our next pick, the pick after that, we do have a Pokemon that doesn't mind a Shadow Ball being targeted at it. So Reuniclus is going to synergize with our team well. It has the bulk but offensive pressure, like I continue to say that I want it in this team. I wanted a bulky with Misty Terrain. I thought just getting a lot of bulky but offensive Pokemon was the way to go to benefit the most from Misty Terrain, and Reuniclus definitely continues to fall into that pattern that we currently have right now. And it has 3 useful abilities, which I really like, having 3 abilities that can all be brought and that all are useful. My opponent will have to deal with the fact that any of those can be brought any given week, which is extremely nice. And Regenerate is just so nice in general. Reuniclus is just so bulky, and the fact that it can get more of its health back by just switching out is just crazy. And it's my favorite Regenerator Pokemon, even though there's other very solid Regenerator Pokemon, most notably Mineshout and Tangrowth. But Definitely just such a solid Pokemon. I didn't want to get my team ran through by fighting types. I just really, especially because we unfortunately ended up not getting a ghost type in our draft. So without a ghost type to be immune to every fighting type's moves other than Mega Lopunny due to it having Scrappy, I was like, we really need a bulky psychic type. I didn't know at this point I wasn't going to get a ghost type, but I still knew that I definitely wanted Reuniclus to deal with those fighting types and to just overall feel better about my matchup against those very powerful fighting types. And Reuniclus is also a Pokemon that loves to go for Calm Minds. It has a plethora of moves to its disposal in Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, Trick Room. There's so many different options that I have with Reuniclus that I'm going to love having to my disposal, and I just can't wait to start using Reuniclus. I've had extremely solid success with using this Pokemon in this draft format, and I can't wait to continue to try to continue that success, as Reuniclus might be my favorite Pokemon in a draft league format. Do need to take a second gander at everything, but it easily might be my favorite. Moving right along though, I thought it was time for us to snag a Dragon type, as the Dragon types are starting to definitely fall and how good they were, or viability, they were starting to really fall, and how viable some of the options were starting to become. And I really dislike the low tier Dragon types. I feel like they're significantly worse, and things like Druddigon, obviously it has its uses and it's not terrible, but I do think it's significantly worse than a lot of the dragons before it. I want to make sure I still got a solid Dragon type, especially to combine with Tapu Fini, as very Dragon Steel cores are my favorite cores to make sure I always get, and I wanted to have a very solid one, and that is what I was able to get here with our 5th pick in Dragonite. And Dragonite's a Pokemon I wanted to use since the first league I ever joined. It was the AML Season 2, and I had a terrible season, but once I finally started to feel like I was doing getting a little bit better, I played Nick. Really cool guy. Don't get to talk to him much, but he's a really cool guy, and he was using Dragonite, and he was able to sweep my entire team with Dragonite because of the fact that with the weakness policy and with the right moves, Dragonite can extreme speed and earthquake an entire team out of existence, and that's the position that I was put in. And that is why ever since then, I've always held Dragonite in high priority. Well, not high priority, but I put it high on my list of solid Pokemon in the draft league format, and I was finally able to snag it for myself. At this point, we do have 2 options to remove hazards, so I thought we can deal with multi-scale and keep multi-scale enacted pretty well, especially with Misty Terrain 2. Dragonite doesn't want to be burned. Dragonite doesn't want to be paralyzed. It really hates those 2 forms of status, and with Misty Terrain, it's going to benefit well from that. Unfortunately, its Outrages or any other Dragon Claws, any of those Dragon type moves that I do try to go for will be weakened, which is definitely a little unfortunate, but I do think Dragonite has the coverage to make up for that, and to where we don't have to run. We can run Ice Punch, and if our what's it called isn't that, if our weakness policy is activated, we can still knock out other dragons with Dragon Punch, with Ice Punch, Dragon Punch with Ice Punch, so not bad at all. And I love Dragonite stats. I love getting Pokemon who have the stats. I think a lot of people get into typings and all this, and just exactly types they need early on. Obviously, I was prioritizing typings, but I also was prioritizing stats, and Dragonite certainly has the stats that it can be defensive and offensive. Once again, another bulky offensive Pokemon with 100 special defense, 100 special attack, 95 defense, 134 attack, and then 91 HP. Just so many solid stats all around, and then an 80 speed stat, which once again isn't the best, but it's definitely usable and it's not extremely slow. And I just love Dragonite's stat distribution. I think the stat distribution on Dragonite is extremely solid because it's so many different ways to be ran. And like I said, multi-scale weakness policy is an option for us. Just a Choice Banded set, Lumberry set, which you usually won't have to use due to Misty Terrain, which is a really nice option. Just so many different sets that we can run with Dragonite that I'm excited to use out, and I'm just extremely excited to use them. Dragonite does get Roost too, I'm pretty sure, so it even has reliable recovery. And Dragonite's just, like I said, it's a Pokemon I've wanted to use so bad in the draft league format. This was suggested by the friend who was helping me with this league, so shout outs to him for this, for suggesting this first, because I was sold immediately after he said it. But at the same time, after I did realize right away how much this Dragonite fit well on our team, how much it continued our bulky but offensive pattern that we have going, and just how well we can use this. Like, I know I can use Dragonite well. Unfortunately though, that is another 4 times weak Pokemon to Ice, just like Landorus, which is a huge downside. But we do have Scizor and we do have Finny, who both resist that and will take any Ice type moves extremely well. So it's not the end of the world by any measure. So I'm not sad about getting another 4 times weak Ice Pokemon at all, not in the slightest. And it's also weak to Dragon, which Finny is immune to, and Scizor takes well. So just it's going to synergize extremely well, because this is another really powerful priority move in Extreme Speed. And then it also just so many different options on how we can run Dragonite. So that's really nice. At this point though, I knew that I wanted a spinner. I knew I had 2 defog Pokemon, but I really wanted a spinner. Dragonite really isn't going to like having hazards on the field. I really didn't want to always, since I did get Landorus so early, which is one of the best stealth rock Pokemon in my opinion, if used correctly. I didn't want to always be defogging away my own hazards just to get rid of my opponent's hazards. So I was like, I really want to get a solid spinner, but I don't want to go too low and get one of the spinners that really struggles to spin but still be effective at its other roles other than just spinning. So I decided that I needed to prioritize getting a spinner as soon as possible, and I decided that I wanted to go with a Pokemon that I'm not sure would have even been drafted if I didn't take it. I'm not sure how high a priority it had on other people's lists. I think it would have been. It has an extremely nice ability that goes very well with Misty Terrain, and the fact that even if Misty Terrain isn't up, I can still go into my Komala, and it has Comatose, which treats the Pokemon like it's asleep, so I can't be status, which is really nice. So that if I know a Will-O-Wisp is coming out on Landorus, coming out on Scizor, it's coming out on Dragonite, I can switch into Komala, I can U-turn into Komala, and I can make sure that we avoid any of that status. Komala also has a very solid attack stat, so it definitely can go on the offensive pretty well. Well, not very solid. It has a decent, it has an okay or a good, a solid offensive attack stat in 115, so that we can definitely still go on the offensive. But then it really has a nice special defense stat, which is going to allow me to take special hits extremely well with Komala. And then it does get Wish, so this will be our Wish Passer when I do feel like it's most needed. It can take those special hits, and I can Wish up and not only raise Komala's health back to neutral, but also try to Wish Pass into some other Pokemon, and just keep everyone really healthy and everything. But I do think we have Roost on Scizor, we have Roost on Dragonite. I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on Roost on Dragonite, I think it gets it. And we do have we also have Reliable, we have Recover on Reuniclus. So keeping our Pokemon healthy isn't the greatest concern right now, but I definitely want to Wish Pass on my team. It was definitely something I wanted. I do think normal types are pretty underrated in the Draft League format, as a lot of normal types do get overlooked, but I like normal types. They're immune to the to ghost types, or to ghost type stabs, which a lot of teams end up having no option for switching into a Shadow Ball. It ends up being like neutral on everything. So I like the fact that we were able to get a normal type. I like the fact we were able to get a spinner. I like that Komala has Comatose for when we don't have Misty Terrain up, but we want to dodge hazards. I like that it has a definitely usable offensive attack stat, and I like that its special defense is extremely solid, so that it can take those special hits really well. And then I also like the fact that Komala does provide us with a slow, also another Pokemon that has a slow U-turn, so we will be able to slowly U-turn out when my opponent goes into their fighting type, thinking that we're just going to Wish Pass or whatever with Komala. I can just do a slow U-turn, get right out of there, and then get into a Pokemon that threatens their whatever Pokemon I went into on our Komala. So another Pokemon with Switch Initiative. So now we have 3 Pokemon with Switch Initiative. We have 3 Pokemon that can remove hazards. Another Pokemon that synergizes extremely well with the team, because we have a plethora of fighting resist at this point, and the fact that Dragonite will resist fighting at this point, Tapu Fini resists fighting at that point, and Landorus resists fighting at that point. So we had a lot of Pokemon that resisted fighting. So I think it will synergize well with the team, and I definitely wanted to get Wish. And I like the fact it's a normal type. Just so much to like about Komala. I really like the pick, and I'm excited to use it. I've seen Komala used in singles. I haven't used it myself, but I've seen it, and I've seen it used well. So I'm going to try to replicate that. Moving right along though. I realized at this point that our team just was slow. Komala it wasn't like extremely slow, but the speed stat just wasn't. I had nothing at that really high speed stat. Komala actually amplified us being kind of not that fast, kind of pretty slow at this point. So I knew that I needed to prioritize getting some faster Pokemon now, and it's so unfortunate that I was sniped on Mine Chow literally just a few picks before this pick. Very unfortunate, because I would have loved to have gotten Mine Chow, because of the fact that Mine Chow does give Regenerator, so I would have been a solid another Regenerator Pokemon to go with Reuniclus. I just love, it would have been another Pokemon with Switch Initiative. I love the fact that I just think Mine Chow is just such a solid Pokemon. I think it's extremely strong, and it's one of my favorite Draft League Pokemon. Unfortunately, though, we weren't able to get that. So what we did end up going with is oh, why did I just forget this Pokemon's name for a quick second? We ended up getting Hawlucha. And what I love about Hawlucha is the fact that it has a 118 speed stat, and it does have a 94 attack stat, which is very usable, but it has a Burden, which if we are able to get a sub up easily or anything like that, we can really become extremely fast and start to dish out a lot of damage to our opponents, and we'll still be behind a sub. So Unburden, the Citrus Berry sub Unburden set is just such a solid set. I definitely envision myself bringing it to some of the games this season, as it's just such a solid way to use Hawlucha, especially when it's when it is running Citrus Berry, and because of it, it loses its items, so then Acrobatics gets that ×2, and Acrobatics becomes a very threatening offensive flying type move, coming off of Stab, which also boosts it a little bit more, so it actually becomes extremely strong, and that's really nice considering that I really like flying as an offensive typing. Usually you have to rely on Brave Bird, which has the recoil, which isn't the best, and then I just I really don't like pure flying types or normal flying types. I just don't really like that typing. I don't think it's the strongest. If we didn't already have 3 flying types, I wouldn't even be mad about this pick. There would be no salt or anything about me with this pick, because of the fact that I do like flying fighting as a typing. I like it. It's not bad at all. But the fact that we already have 2 other flying types in Landorus and Dragonite, that's the only reason I really was banking on getting Mine Chow, not having to go to Hawlucha. But I think we can still play around it. It just sucks that that's now 3 Pokemon with an Ice type weakness, so we'll definitely have to be really careful with the offensive Ice type Pokemon. We'll definitely have to be really careful, but we do have the resistances for it. Scizor and Finny definitely still do resist that, so they don't mind it. But yeah, just Hawlucha is just so fast. At this point, we really needed the speed. It has the options that we wanted to have in I think it has a solid moveset. It gets like Stone Edge. Its high jump kick's extremely powerful. Its acrobatics is extremely powerful. It gets a few other options that I really don't want to reveal right now, because I feel like Hawlucha isn't a Pokemon that's very well known on the moves that it gets. So I will definitely be looking into running some uncanny sets and different things to activate that in Burden and start to just sweep teams. I also wanted a sweeper, and I do think Hawlucha, especially if it can get a sub up, as that's its main set, but overall, I do think Hawlucha is a solid sweeper too. Just I wanted a Pokemon that could just clean up a game right at the end, and I do think Hawlucha can do that. Just banking on its speed stat, not banking on priority like Dragonite or Mega Scizor. Well, I really like Hawlucha, and I do think we'll still be able to use it well. Moving right along though, we still needed more speed though. We got a 118 speed stat Pokemon, but we needed more speed. I still didn't have the best speed, and I mainly just wanted more speed. I also wanted a dark type at this point, because I really do like stab knockoffs. I just like offensive dark types in general. And I also saw that I also really like offensive ice types that are like really fast and just hit really hard. They can do a lot of damage in this format, so I wanted to snag one of those too, and I was able to snag Sneasel, and it's obviously far from the best, especially because it's a NEF or NFE, not fully evolved Pokemon. But Sneasel is still extremely solid in this format, in my opinion, because it does have that 95 attack stat, which is definitely nothing to laugh at, around the same amount as Hawlucha, but then a 115 speed stat, so we definitely got the speed we wanted to. And Sneasel's going to provide us with a dark ice typing, which I think is in the top 3, if not even higher, in the best typings in this format, with like Terrakion with its rock fighting typing, and with Mamoswine with its ground ice typing, and with Volcanion with its water fire typing. I think it's right up there with all those typings as one of the best offensive typings, and the fact that almost nothing resists the combination of dark and ice. I actually don't think anything does resist that combination, but don't quote me again, as I'm not 100% sure. I don't think anything resists that dual typing, and at the same time, anything that does resist ice, it's going to have its item knock off if it's an item that can be knocked off. So just such a solid dual typing. Definitely one of the lower tier Pokemon that still has to be prioritized when it is on your opponent's team, as like I said, this is just such a solid offensive typing. I guess it's another form of priority. So now we have Bullet Punch from Mega Scissor, Extreme Speed from Dragonite, and now Ice Shard from Sneasel. And like I said, the previous league I was in, I had no priority and I really hated it, so I definitely wanted to have a lot of priority options. It does give us another Rocks weak Pokemon, so now we do have Dragonite, and we don't have any other Pokemon that's weak to rocks other than Dragonite and Sneasel, but still two Pokemon that really don't appreciate rocks. So definitely it makes my Komala pick even look a little bit better in the fact that we definitely don't want hazards on our side of the field. So I want to have a lot of options in getting rid of hazards. And yeah, I just think having another knockoff Pokemon to go with Scissor, and to go with Scissor and Landorus Therian, it's definitely not bad. So now we have another Pokemon that can run knockoff, so that opens up the move pools of our other Pokemon, and the fact that they don't really need to run knockoff as much, since we have so many options for it. And it's just like I said, I needed speed. I wanted a glass cannon, because Hawlucha is pretty much a glass cannon. Sneasel's pretty much going to be a glass cannon. You're really not going to get really fast and really offensive but non-glass cannon Pokemon at this point in the draft. So I was very satisfied with getting Sneasel. I think Sneasel will be a solid member of the team. I think it will definitely put a lot of pressure on our opponent's team with all the different moves it gets, and just with that extremely nice offensive typing. It's just so solid, and I'm going to very much enjoy using it. It's unfortunate that Sneasel is very frail, but it's a glass cannon. It's meant to hit extremely hard and get out of there. So that's exactly how we'll be using it, and it should be fun using it. I think I've always wanted to use Weavile, but there's always been different OU Pokemon I wanted to get, so I'm fine with being able to use Sneasel and seeing exactly how I can go about using Sneasel to its best ability. So Sneasel was our next pick, and is there anything else I wanted to add for Sneasel? I don't think there's anything else I have to add for it. Just glass cannon, just meant to do damage and provide us with speed, which we really were lacking at this point in the draft. So now I still see the need for a little bit more speed, but at the same time I also see the need for kind of a more defensive wall. Like Reuniclus's best defensive stat is special defense, Finny's best defensive stat is special defense, Scissor's best defensive stat or defense stat is its defense, which is solid. But I wanted another, I definitely want to go really offensive with Scissor in some games, so I wanted another Pokemon that didn't really that was mainly meant to just be defensive. It wasn't really meant to be that offensive at all, or even when you do not invest that much in defense, it still is a very solid defensive Pokemon. And then I also Landorus, obviously, its defense stat is best. Its defense stat is its best defensive stat, but at the same time, I also want to go really offensive with Landorus too. So it's another Pokemon that I don't really want to have to run too much bulk in defense all the time. So I saw the need for a real defensive wall. I really wanted to get one, and then at the same time, I wanted a Pokemon that was immune to ground type attacks, but that wasn't a flying type, because so then the rock damage doesn't really start to just add up so rapidly on it. I think those Pokemon are extremely nice in this format. Pokemon like all the Rotoms, and well, not all the Rotoms, but like Rotom Wash. I think Rotom Wash is extremely nice in the fact that it's immune to ground type attacks, but isn't a flying type, so that's really, really nice. I wanted an option like that, and we get that with Weezing, who does have the ability Levitate, which is just such a nice ability. And the fact that I can predict some of these ground type moves. I do think Groundium Z will be the most popular out of the Z crystals that people will use going into the season. I may be wrong on that, but Landorus is our Zmon, and we'll likely be using it for its ground type Z move, maybe some other things, but mainly for its ground type Z move. So I'm going with the assumption that a lot of people will be using their Zmon for that a lot too, as ground's just such a solid offensive typing. Almost nothing that isn't immune to it resists it. So that was something I definitely that's something I definitely wanted. I was able to snag that with Weezing, and the main thing that sold me on Weezing though would be the fact that it gets toxic spikes, and toxic spikes is something that I really started to like when I was able to use Weezing in the IPAA, the International Pokemon Amino Association. When I was able to use Weezing in that, I grew to love toxic spikes. I think it's the one form of hazards that puts immense pressure on your opponent's team as everything starts to get toxic, and it really starts to wear down their team. And you can run like Protect on your Wish Passer and things like that. And you can really just start to wear down your opponent, and you put like a timer on their entire team, which is extremely nice. So I like the fact that Weezing provides all that. We do have resistances for Weezing's weaknesses in like Psychic. We have a Uniclus to switch in on that every single time, and we can maybe switch in Sneasel, but I likely won't be switching Sneasel in on any attacks. Weezing's also weak to, I can't think what else is Poison weak to. I know it's weak to ground. I think Weezing's only weakness might be Psychic, considering that it does have Levitate for ground type. So I really like what Weezing provides for the team. It's going to provide Will-O-Wisp somewhere outside of Misty Terrain. Those toxic spikes are going to be extremely nice. Once Misty Terrain goes away, then I'll just not go into Finny, and I'll let toxic spikes to really start to wear down my opponent's team. And just that 120 defense stat is absolutely amazing. And Weezing actually has a decent attack and special attack stat, so we can definitely go on offensive decently, a decent amount too. And with toxic spikes, I do feel like Poison's a typing that a lot of drafts just don't prioritize getting. They really don't see the use for it. So I feel like a lot of users won't have a Pokemon that can just come in and suck up the toxic spikes. So I feel like we will be able to maybe even lead with Weezing if necessary, just so that we start to toxic a lot of stuff before we go into our Finny and disallow status. But yeah, I really like what Weezing provides for the team, and I can't wait to use it. Moving along though, we get into our electric type, and it's unfortunate. This is where I really didn't like, well, not that I really didn't like, but I'm not the most proud of these last two picks, and the fact that I usually do like to get an electric type early in my drafts, and I really do like getting a fire type early in my drafts, but I wasn't able to do either of those two things. And so we had to get some lower tier of those two typings, but there are still typings I definitely wanted to have in my draft, especially electric. And what electric provides for us is the fact with Volt Switch, we had nothing that can Volt Switch at this point. I wanted to have a Volt Switching Pokemon, especially a fast Volt Switching Pokemon, and we also needed speed again at this point in the draft. So I also wanted to get a Pokemon that had decent speed, and that's what we were able to get with Raichu. I don't think Raichu is as bad as the fact that it's in the last and final of the tiers, but I don't think it's that bad, but thankfully I was able to get it with that final pick. It does provide Lightning Rod for our Tapu Fini, so we have another option of something to switch into other than Landorus when there's an electric type threatening our Tapu Fini, considering the fact that a lot of those electric types are able to carry HP Ice, so switching into Landorus usually isn't always going to be the best bet, especially if my opponent has the balls to go for that prediction. So having a Lightning Rod Pokemon makes me a little bit more comfortable switching into it. It obviously doesn't have the best bulk at all, especially with that 60 HP stat and the 55 defense stat. Really not the most bulky Pokemon, but hopefully I can play around and predict whether it's going to be HP Ice or the actual electric type stat, and go into this Lightning Rod Pokemon if necessary. I just think Lightning Rod's a very solid ability, so I was fine with using it. Raichu, it has a decent special attack stat in 90, so we'll be able to use that. Give us moves like Focus Blast, give us moves, it has like Thunderbolt, it has Hidden Power Ice, obviously it has Grass Knot, it has Nuzzle, it has Encore. Raichu gets a good amount of moves that it can use to its disposal to make it a useful member of your team, even the fact that it is really one of those low tier Pokemon. And I needed an electric type, like I continue to say. I definitely wanted an electric type, and that's what Raichu will provide us. I'm hoping to use Raichu better than I have in the past. I had Raichu in a previous league, and didn't do much of anything for me, but it did get like crit. It just didn't have the best luck either, just a bad luck Raichu. So hopefully this Raichu has some better luck, and we're able to use it a little bit more effective than I was able to in my previous league where I had Raichu. But it was the only other time I used it, so we're bringing Raichu back, and we're trying to give Raichu another try in this format, and I think it might be alright for us. But I would have prioritized getting a electric type a little bit earlier, especially at the time I selected Komala. Oh no, the right after Komala was when I was looking at electric types, but unfortunately, Heliolisk was like the best electric type then, and I definitely would have took Heliolisk, but I'm not taking weather at all, which Heliolisk starts to become really threatening with, is when you have weather on your team, and I also didn't want a second normal type on my team, as Komala was already a normal type, so I didn't like that, and then all the other electric type options, I really just didn't think they were worth the points. Until we fell all the way down to Raichu. So I just decided that I would go Raichu and just try to do my best using Raichu as our electric type for the season. But like I said, I know electric is a solid typing to make sure you snag in this format, and that's what we decided to. That's where we decided to snag our electric type. I think Raichu can still be a very valued member of the team. It's weak to ground. We have so many flying types, and we also have Weezing, who's immune to ground. So we have lots of switch-ins for ground type attacks. If my opponent wants to go into a ground type, lots of them don't have any options on dealing damage to Landorus. I can usually, if I Volt Switch accidentally into a ground type, it's immune. I'm still in on Raichu. I can switch into Landorus, and Landorus will just intimidate the ground type that already usually doesn't have a solid move to hit Landorus with. So I do think it synergizes well with our team, and I like the speed stat. We needed more speed. I think it'll work well. And then last but not least, the final member of our team is going to be Magmortar. And I definitely wanted to get a fire type. I'm not a fan of drafts that don't have fire types. I think they're extremely strong. It's unfortunate that I wasn't able to snag one any earlier, but as the draft just kept going on, I just kept seeing a Pokemon around the points that was just around the time that I was looking that I thought was just a better option than the other options there. And people were snagging fire types actually left and right. Emboar went a little bit earlier than I expected. Just all the fire types that I would have wanted, other than the ones in OU, but I prioritized some other Pokemon in OU. Other than that, they were just the fire types got snagged really quickly, and there just wasn't many options for me once it got further and further down. Fortunate enough, though, I do think Magmortar definitely isn't as bad as the bottom last tier either. I'm glad that it's there though, as I like having. I'm not a big fan of those drafts that any Pokemon that's even halfway decent, they just take out of that bottom tier and they throw them in a higher tier, and then you have people drafting things like, I don't even know, not fully evolved Pokemon. You have them drafting all of those in the final round, and I'm not talking about actual good, not fully evolved Pokemon like Sneasel and Porygon 2. I'm talking about like actually bad ones. So I'm glad that the NPL Division 2 decided to actually keep some good Pokemon in the final tier. And yeah, our final member will be Magmortar. Magmortar provides Vital Spirit, which disallows it to be put to sleep, which is definitely an ability I can see myself maybe using, especially against some team that has a Sleep Powder Pokemon that I may be a little afraid of. A 125 special attack stat is really solid, especially to be able to get this at this point in the draft. That's extremely solid. 75 HP stat isn't the best, but 95 special defense isn't bad at all. So we can maybe run an Assault Vest set. We can definitely run Scarf with that special attack stat and dish out a decent amount of damage. We can maybe even go use its attack stat. 95 attack stat definitely isn't bad. It's even like around or maybe a little bit better than Halucha's attack stat. So we can run what is that move I'm thinking of? Not Body Slam, Belly Drum. There we go, Belly Drum. We can run Belly Drum, and Magmortar does get Mach Punch. So we can run Belly Drum, Mach Punch. Definitely, I will try my best to bring that at least 1 week for you guys. I saw a friend, Salty Jack. I saw him use the Belly Drum Mach Punch set, and he actually like swept through his opponent's team, and it was amazing to watch. So I definitely, ever since that day, I wanted to use the exact same set and try to see if I can make it work too. So that's definitely an option. And just the 125 attack stat, just special attack stat just really sold me. Is that's just so high, and it's so much better than a lot of stats that of other Pokemon that you'll see in this round. And Magmortar is actually able to use it, and excuse me. And then I really needed a fire type at this point. Didn't really have any other choices, and well, I did have some other choices, but this is definitely the best. Like Typhlosion, bad. Rapidash, bad. A few other Pokemon just bad. So Magmortar is actually not bad. It's just not that good, but it's definitely not bad. So it's a solid Pokemon to use. 83 speed stat definitely isn't terrible either. So it's not the slowest thing in the world either. So I really, we don't have the fastest team, but we have far from just like a really slow team, which I have almost no Pokemon that are like extremely slow, other than maybe like Komala and Reuniclus. But those are banking on being a little bit more bulky rather than really trying to be offensive. I don't really have any offensive slow Pokemon, which I'm not the biggest fan of. the offensive slow Pokemon are easily to capitalize off of after they maybe take something out. They're kind of easy to capitalize off of. So I liked that I didn't have too many really slow offensive Pokemon. And yeah, Magmodar just finished out, just rounded out the rest of our draft. Unfortunately enough, though, we weren't able to. Oh, that was an accident. But yeah, unfortunately, we weren't able to. We were not able to get a grass type, which really does suck. So we don't have a fire water grass core. That was the main thing that once my draft was said and done, I was like, oh man, I missed out on a fire water grass core. That's not the best, but I do think that core is a tad overrated if you don't get a really solid one, like getting like a grass type like Mega Venusaur. I do think the grass types get so bad so quickly, and once we got into the lower rounds, there was just no grass type I even really wanted to give a chance, especially because Tangrowth was taken so early, and that's like one of the only lower, even a little bit lower tier grass types that I'm honestly really fond of. People usually get stuff like Levani, but I didn't really think we needed webs, and I don't know, you literally just bring Levani for webs. We kind of don't bring it, and I don't really like that at all. As once you get rid of webs, then Levani's just kind of a waste. So the grass types get bad really quickly, so I'm fine with not really having a grass type, so I don't think that's the worst. But still, not getting a fire water grass core, it's not a plus, it's definitely a minus. Then after that, like I said, we had to get a low tier electric and fire type, which I don't like getting in the low tiers. I end up thinking it really hurts their effectiveness and you don't really bring them to many games. I'd rather get like a normal type or something else in those lower rounds, not one of those vital typings like electric and fire. So I'm fortunate that I had to dig into those low tiers for those two. After that, I have 3 flying types, definitely something I really didn't like, but like I said, I was sniped on Mind Shell, which really does suck, but I think we'll be able to play around not having Mind Shell and having Hawlucha instead, and I definitely think we'll also be able to play around having 3 Pokemon weak to Ice, but and 2 times 4 weak to it, but I think we'll be able to play around that. That does give me, I do have 2 Pokemon with times 4 weaknesses, which I'm usually kind of opposed to in draft format because of the fact that random things could be running HP fires to capitalize on that. But I do think I've gotten a little bit better at this format to where I can play around that better than I was able to previously. And I think we have the answers to those weaknesses on this team, definitely. And obviously, the Misty Terrain hurting Dragonite's Dragon Claw and all that isn't the most effective either, but I think we definitely have a lot of options to make Misty Terrain more of a plus than a minus for our team. Definitely think we have enough options for that. But still, hurting Dragonite's Outrage, which is a solid move on Dragonite to just sweep through a team after their fairy's gone, or hurting its Dragon Claw isn't the best either. After that, I'm trying to think of other downsides. Oh, our speed stat. We are not the fastest team at all. Like, there's things with 130 speed, like Tapu Koko, that I don't have. I only have Scarf users that can even touch that speed stat. There's a lot of Pokemon that reach higher speed tiers than Hawlucha, who's our fastest Pokemon in 118 in speed. So our speed stat is far from the best. So I might have to bring Scarf to a decent amount of games, which is pretty unfortunate. But at the same time, I like our bulk. Our Wish Patcher being Komala, sorry, I just hit my keyboard, but our Wish Patcher being Komala is not the best. I would love for our Wish Patcher to be a Pokemon with a little bit more bulk than Komala, but it's not the best, but we did get him as a spinner, so I do still think we'll be able to use him pretty well, but it's unfortunate that Komala is our only wish passing Pokemon, considering that it isn't that bulky. It's decently bulky, but not that bulky. Kind of only wants to take those special hits. Really doesn't take neutral or super, especially super effective physical hits well at all. So not the best there. Is there any other downsides to our draft? I'm trying to think. We have lots of priority. Can't think. Is there any other downsides? I don't think there is. We didn't get a ghost type, which sucks because of spin blocking. Spin blocking is always something that's kind of nice to have. It's not the end of the world by any measure not having it, but I do prefer to have spin blocking, and I do prefer having ghost types, considering, like I said, a lot of teams don't prioritize getting a normal type, so usually Shadow Ball kind of hits everything for neutral damage, which is usually really nice. We don't really have a Pokemon that can get Pursuit trapped well. Uniclus really, even if it's switching out, it really takes a Pursuit pretty well. So I'm not really worried about getting Pursuit trapped, which is something that's nice to not have to worry about. I do think unfortunately, a lot of Tapus do have the advantage on Finny, considering that Finny's weak to Tapu Koko, Finny's weak to Tapu Bulu, and I do think it only really can like switch in reliably on Tapu Lele, and that's if I have a lot of bulk still invested in its special defense too. So that's a little unfortunate that it kind of has the worser end out of the countering, well not countering, but switching in on the other Tapus so that I can actually get rid of their terrain. So that's a little unfortunate. We'll have to play around that pretty well. But like I said, I do think Misty Terrain is going to benefit our team just extremely well. And I can't think, is there anything that I'm missing? I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think those are pretty much the flaws of the team. Overall, though, I'm excited about mainly the first half of our draft. I know it definitely starts to tell off after that, but I'm really excited about the synergy of the first half of our draft. I do think we still have a championship winning team, most definitely, considering how much Misty Terrain is going to benefit the rest of our team. And I'm just so excited to get this season started. Like I said, I'm not sure I said it already, but our first game should be up on Monday on the channel. If it's in game, if it can be in game, I'll definitely try to bring that to you guys and have our first league match recorded by myself. We had some that a friend helped record and get on the channel previously, but first one recorded by myself, team fully drafted by myself, and just with help here and there, but still, just like this is all fully on my own doing, and I'm just so excited to get it started and try to bring home the NPL Division 2 championship. And we're the Salazzin Salazzles, so definitely I hope you guys love the logo. I hope you guys are excited about the team, and I hope we can definitely put our best foot forward and end up winning the NPL Division 2 this season. I think we have what we need, so if you guys are excited, let me know what you think of the team. Let you know what I maybe should have drafted here or there. I'm all about input. Like I definitely don't think I'm the best drafter. I'm far from it. So I'm all about input. So if you guys want to help throw in some input there, if you want to maybe let me know about some set I should run on a Pokemon throughout the season, what Pokemon do you think should be our captain? I have not chose a captain yet. It likely will be Landorus Therian, especially because it's our Zmon. But I haven't chosen a captain. It easily could be Finny. It easily could be Mega Scizor. Easily could be Dragonite, and it definitely easily can be Reuniclus, as I said. That's probably my favorite Pokemon in this format. So let me know which Pokemon should be our captain. I'll probably choose the captain after our first game, see who kind of sweeps up and does the best in that game, and then we'll move from there. Thank you so much for supporting me in this video, though. I'm excited. I'm so excited. Let's have a fun season. Let's meet some new people, and let's take home the championship. I'll see you guys in our first episode, or our first video of our battle. We play the Virginia Volcaronas. I don't know the coach of that team, though. He hasn't got back to me yet. I put it in the group chat where everyone's in there. I said, whoever the coach of that team is, please message me. He hasn't got back to me, so hopefully he gets back to me soon and we can get that battle scheduled and done and on the channel for you all, up and ready on Monday. I'm going to get the heck out of here, though, guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you once we have our first battle. For now, though, peace out. Have a good one, everyone.